Welcome to Dropout 22, this is a GD Media production, bringing you the latest news and the best views from this year's Rugby World Cup. It'll probably be the second best radio show you listen to all week. So welcome aboard! Joining me in the studio this week, making his debut, it's Hove RFC's first team captain, Sam Whiting. All the way from Australia via Hove as well, we've got Pat Andrews, and joining me on the phone, we've got Guy Griffiths and William Corsi. England are out of the Rugby World Cup. Where did it all go wrong? We'll dissect it up here next. Gentlemen, welcome. England out of the World Cup, out of their own World Cup. Sam, let's get your reaction first. Welcome to Dropout 22. You're making your debut. Not very happy circumstances.
Pretty depressing, to be honest. Working towards this World Cup for kind of 4 years and stuff, really. All the hype before the tournament has all been about England and topping their group and kind of building everything to this World Cup. But it's kind of been dropped down in awful circumstances, really. Obviously after the Wales game was pretty disappointing and choking, kind of leaving with the Australia game to come, and we were completely outclassed, really. They were just a completely different class, and just thought they outplayed us in every asset of the game, really.
Patty, congratulations.
Thank you.
We're through, we're done, job done.
Cheers, shaking the hand there. Yep.
Strong handshake there, yeah.
Very good.
How good was that performance by the Wallabies? Is that as good as you've seen?
Well, certainly a quality performance, but I think I've seen this team play better. So beating the All Blacks in Sydney earlier this year was, a really shining example of how this team can play. I'm obviously over the moon, but I didn't work for it for 4 years like Sam did, obviously, but still certainly something to be proud of. But I'm not surprised. Everyone seems to be surprised about the result. The surprising result was last week when they shot themselves in the foot and lost to Wales. This was by no means a surprise for me. I expected this, and I'm looking forward to next week.
We got the second fastest man in the southwest joining us on the phone, Will Corsi. Corsi, last week you said that losing to Wales was like being bummed in your own backyard. What was this like?
This week we kind of just walked into Twickenham with our trousers around and our cheeks waxed up, wasn't it? Really, we didn't really. Never looked like winning. Even at 2013, people were saying, "Oh yeah, we could get back into it." They knew, Australia knew they always had a couple more gears than us, and they could easily. Well, they've got to 30-13, and we were just like, "Well, we could carry on." They could have got 40-50 then on.
Guy, you put a lot of the blame on Stuart Lancaster for the loss to Wales last week. Mainly his selection of Owen Farrell at 10. Was it same case of where it went wrong this week?
As you know full well, I'm not Owen Farrell's biggest fan. But at the same time, if you want to blame this defeat on Owen Farrell, then you're missing the point, because you could have put any Englishman whatsoever 1 to 15 against that Aussie team, and they would have still had an absolute bumming. What a team! They absolutely ripped, didn't they? The second try, Foley's second try when Kirtley came around that corner, and for the inside ball, just wow! England didn't even see it coming, and it was just it's a pleasure to watch, to be honest. It's always nice to see England lose, but in that manner, it's refreshing.
So, where did it go wrong for England in this World Cup then, Sammy? What do you put it down to?
I think just the selection issues, really. I think we've had 4 years of Lancaster at the helm. I think it's something like 17 or 18 centre combinations. You can't go into a World Cup kind of not really knowing your first choice centre pairing. I mean, you look at someone like New Zealand and stuff. Was it Manon who's getting his 100th cap, and I think Conrad Smith's only a couple behind him. I think they must have 60, 70 tests between them. And I mean, playing rugby myself and stuff, you know that if when you work off people, someone will kind of shift to the left or bounce to the right, and it takes kind of games and stuff to get those combinations, really. And I think selection and stuff has just been, I think he just made it up in that morning, really. I mean, obviously the whole thing came out with Andy Farrell about what his input's been in selection, whether his rugby kind of league background has influenced Burgess getting into the squad, kind of Farrell getting there as well, really. But I think the selection going into a World Cup, not knowing your first choice centre pairing has been a key issue, really.
Corsi, where do you see it?
Yeah, it's I think the hype before the World Cup, saying that we were going to win it. I think if it wasn't in England, like I said before, we wouldn't have half the hype. I think what Lancaster did at the start, when he brought new people in, gave them the chances, that could have gone on for a couple of years, and then, like you say, picked your best team, or the team that he thought was the best, and then played them throughout, going into this World Cup. And I think he's changed it again, like I say, the centre partnerships for the last game. What's the point? He's got Farrell, I think, at 12. What a nightmare. None of the players stepped up as well, so let's not completely blame Lancaster. We have all the players and all the games we had so far. Mike Brown played one game well, and Launchbury played one game well. It's just not good enough, is it?
So his players have left him very, very exposed. I don't think there's any denying that. But it looks like England are going to push him out the door as soon as the Uruguay game's finished. Guy, do you reckon that's the best shout for him?
I don't think he's done himself any favours, to be honest. I echo what Sam said about the selection. He was all over the place, to be honest. I know there can be a bit of indecision whether you don't know what your best centre partnership is, etc., etc. But when you go through that many, you must have some sort of inkling who your best players are. To chuck Sam Burgess in against Wales, we spoke about it last week, was just wrong, completely wrong, because there was absolutely no justification to chuck him in. He's just not good enough. And it just shows exactly what Sam said, basically. It just shows when you put in 17, 18 different partnerships in 4 years, there are a lot of players to choose from then. And if you can't pick two out of there, which you're going to stick with, going to flow forward with, and actually build around, blame has to lie with Lancaster. Obviously, the players, as you said as well, they didn't step up. They're not good enough, some of them, and they're basically hyped up a bit too much. But if Lancaster just has to go. He didn't do himself any favours in that interview in the last couple of days when he said his squad were far too inexperienced. What do you think you've been doing, Stu? If you wanted them to be more experienced, pick them a bit more often, mate, instead of checking them in one game and then getting rid of them for 4.
Pat, what's your view on it as an outsider?
Well, obviously, I've been here for a few years, so I watch what the English media do to their sporting teams. I think it was unfair the way that everyone believed they were going to win. This is a young team who are relatively untested. I think if we can go back to the Six Nations when they beat Wales in Wales, that was huge. That was a fantastic result for England, but they didn't necessarily dominate the game. I think Lancaster, like Sammy said, picking all these different partnerships, 3-6 months out before a World Cup, you have to know what your starting team is. You have to know, even if you don't stick with that team every time, you have to know what your starting team is. You can make changes and what have you, but I don't think he knew. I don't think anyone knew, least of all the players.
Come on, let's name names then. Guy, you said there were players in that team not good enough to play for England. Who are they?
Not good enough for international 10. Owen Farrell, Sam Burgess. Shouldn't have even been anywhere near the squad. He was only in for his rep. Brad Barrett, who we all agree just passes like a cabbage. Apart from that, their pack is solid and always will be solid. I don't know where the scrum moves have come from, because we've never seen that from England. Obviously, the Aussies must have been a lot better than anyone gave them credit for. Even though we knew they were solid, we didn't know they were that good. Up front, they always look good. I don't think the back row offers much, in the sense that you've got a 7 trying to do the tackling of 2 others, and the other 2 just workhorses who hit rucks. There's got to be a bit more balance there. And apart from that, when your core or your spine of your team is that weak, so 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, you are going to struggle. And when you're checking players in right, left, and centre, trying to make it work, trying to find combinations, that's really where they fell down.
You mentioned the balance there in the back row, and God knows how many column inches have been wasted on this argument that Stefan Armitage should have been in the squad. Sammy, what's your take on the issue with the non-selection of French-based players, and what difference, if any, do you think Stefan Armitage would have made to the World Cup?
I think on one hand, this idea of the exceptional circumstances stuff is such a grey term. It should be made out black or white, kind of 2 years ago, whether or not he was going to be in or not. If they were going to say, yes, get him in, he should have been in a year, 18 months ago, not just coming in before the World Cup. Otherwise, they should just close that door and said, right, you're in France now, fine, that's it, Steph, and go. But this whole thing about kind of having this poaching seven and stuff is something that the English squad doesn't even have. I mean, someone like Matt Kovacic didn't even make the 50 Premier League squad ready. Other players, I mean, I know Will Fraser's been injured, but he's another player that's come up and coming and is that kind of a fetcher of a seven. And I think kind of last week just proved that how much the breakdown and stuff is key to international test rugby these days.
Corsi, what do you reckon? France or no France? Should he be picking these players?
No, basically. If you want to play for England, play in England. Then, but like you said, just draw a line under it. Say he's not in England. If he wants to play for England, or he wants to go for the money, which is fair enough. If you want to go for the money, go move over to France. But if you want to play for England, you want to have the desire to play, then come and find it. I'm sure there's a club over here that he could easily get into. So, and if you want to play for England that much, then you'll come back over here. Job done. That's it. That's all you have to say. But that tagging along for the whole time that we were in the World Cup and at the start of the World Cup, like, just hasn't helped as well.
I can't help but agree with you, and I think Stuart Lancaster and the RFU, to be fair, have copped a hell of a lot of flack here for something that they're not really to blame for. They've put that marker down to try and keep their best players in England. These are the players who have signed those French contracts, knowing that would put them out of contention for England. Patty, you were shaking your head earlier. What's your take on it?
Well, I think we've adjusted our rule this year or recently. Players over a certain number of caps for the Wallabies can come back, can be recalled, and I think that makes sense. We've got to remember that they're professionals. This is what they do for a living, and they need to make a living while they can. They have a finite amount of time to play rugby at a top level to earn as much money as possible. Not all of these people are pundits. Not all of these people are going to have a media career afterwards, and very few of them have degrees or things they can fall back on afterwards. I think to throw it all down to not picking a certain player because he plays in France for whatever reason is a bit ridiculous. The RFU is the biggest rugby union organisation in the world. It's the most well funded. It has the most amount of players, and if you can't figure something out about letting them go a little bit of a distance into France, then you're up shit creek, so to speak.
Speaking of the RFU, surely they have to come into some sort of criticism here. If we rewind a few years, they put Martin Johnson into the head coach role, having absolutely no coaching experience, no managerial experience whatsoever, great captain as he was. That fell on its ass. Now they employed a head teacher in Stuart Lancaster, and 3.5 years down the line, that seems to have fallen on its ass. Corsi, what's surely the men in the suits, and especially Rob Andrew, who I've got to be honest, I do not even know what he does for the RFU. I mean, surely these are the boys who should be answering the questions, and not your Stuart Lancasters and your players.
Yeah, these are the boys that should be answering questions, but they're not the fakes, are they? So unfortunately, you get that in all sorts of businesses. People behind the closed doors that basically put. Martin Johnson was, like you said, great captain. Kind of picked his mates, and fudged his way into the coaching role with no experience. And I like the idea of having sort of Stuart Lancaster there. And like I say, building him up for the first couple of years was good. And I read, I think it was Stuart Barnes, who, he's a bit of a knob, but he's all right. He had, he said there was not like a steady increase. If England got knocked out in the quarters or the semis, the quarters, or whatever, and you could say, actually, in the last 2 years, you could really see the way the team has progressed and they're going up. But Stuart Barnes nailed on the head. They were going up, having highs, then dropping down, and then having highs. And I say the warm-up games were great examples of that, wasn't it? Really.
So, Sammy, who's next then? There's been a couple of names banded about. Eddie Jones is leaving Japan at the end of the campaign. You've got people calling for him to go to Sean Edwards, who's out of contract at the end of the World Cup. Who would you want to see in that role?
You see the job that Eddie Jones and Steve Borthwick have done with Japan. I mean, they've turned a team of kind of players that are decent players and stuff, but they're not on the kind of top tier one kind of teams and players generally, really, and they've got the best out of them. So I mean, it could be an option. I mean, the RFU have all the money, so just chuck a blank check at them, really. I think the idea of Gatland and Sean Edwards and stuff, I don't think however much money you throw at them, those guys will come back. I see Jake White's been mentioned, but that guy thinks he's interested in every job under the sun, really. I think he just loves an interview. To be honest, really, I think Lancaster will stay, but maybe in a kind of one of the under 20 roles or anything like that to kind of bring on the younger players. But he's not going to be another number one. I mean, I can see kind of how the New Zealand coaches have done. Kind of Joe Smith at Ireland's done well, and players like that. It'd be interesting to see if they get anyone from the Southern Hemisphere in. I think that could be the line to go down.
And given the shit that Lancaster's had to deal with, especially over these last 15, 16 days, is it a job that anyone wants, Pat?
It's the highest paying job in rugby union. Certainly something to consider, but I don't think throwing money at it is going to help. 12 months ago, Australian rugby was in the gutter, and it wasn't that they threw money at Michael Checker. They picked someone who had the drive, the determination, who wanted the job and who had a plan. I think that far outweighs any sort of successes or I guess experiences. Obviously, you need some experience and some success, but you don't have to have. I mean, all of that goes out of the window when you're dealing with the immense scrutiny and pressure that you get when you're dealing with an English sporting team.
Now, I'm going to pile even more pressure on Sam Whiting now because at the start, about a year ago, we the three of us here made a bet. Patty, would you just care to tell everyone what the bet was?
So obviously the three of us representing the three prime nations in the Pool A World Cup pool. I think it was pool, swimming pool. I think it was longer than a year ago. Actually, we've decided to have a standing bet. It was after a few pints, certainly. That whoever nation didn't emerge from the pool, to say pool again, from the World Cup, would have to get some sort of commemorative tattoo.
Now, Wales are through, the Aussies are through. Whiting, what's happening, Butte?
It leaves England not going through. I mean, I think when I made this bet kind of 18 months ago, whatever it was, it looked a very decent kind of wager, to be honest. I mean, I can see England losing twice at Twickenham. And I did an even better bet when
you have now.
Webb and Halfpenny went out. And I thought I'd be licking my lips and it'd be Gareth getting a nice tattoo. But after a very dismal performance against the Welsh and being completely outclassed against the Aussies, it seems to be me getting my tramp stamp.
And what are you going to get for the boys?
So Gareth found this picture of a Wallarogan, so like the head of a wallaby and then the big flying wings of a dragon. So there'll be the outline of that coming on my arse.
Coming to an arse near you soon. So we'll bring you that. We'll jump out of the of Rugby World Cup and we'll jump into fantasy rugby time. Last week we did loose heads. Pat, would you just like to repeat your choice of loose head, best loose head in the professional era?
Patricio Noriega, hailing from Argentina, fantastic prop, fantastic player. Played in 2 World Cups for Argentina and unfortunately injured before he could play in a third for Australia. But stalwart.
He also played on the tight head, so he can't be our best loose head.
He played both sides.
I'm sure he did, but let's not bring his personal life into it. So we'll discount him. Jason Leonard also was Sam's choice as well as Corsi's, but he also spent time on both sides of the scrum. So deciding vote comes to myself. So I'm going to pencil in Gethin Jenkins there for the best loose.
Massive surprise! That is. Wow. Pretty sure he had a game at loose head as well. A tight head as well.
Right. So now we're on to hookers, personal lives again. Sammy, who's your best hooker of the professional era?
I mean, Smith, you can't really look as far as Smith, can you really? I mean, you think he lifted the World Cup, over 100 caps for South Africa, most capped ever Springbok captain, obviously a real leader of men. I think John Smith and stuff is probably something you could look at.
Out on the lash in London tonight with Pat
Smith. That's it, exactly. Throwing lineouts to the pissed idiots at a walkabout in London.
Corsi, who's your choice?
Well, I do like Dimitri Zalewski, but purely because his eyes are lovely. His hair is luscious and he looks like a Greek god. But going away from him, it's got to be Keith Wood. His arrows weren't the best, but his stand-up performance and his charismatic sort of play, his character, especially for the Lions, he's a stand-up guy for me.
Guy Griff?
Personally, I thought this was one of the weakest positions when I wrote it down. There's not many stand-up candidates, are there? I wanted to go Keith Wood, but after lying through, I think he's a dick. So, I'm going to echo Sam's thoughts and go with John Smith. He's listed the World Cup. On that basis, I just ticked them off, went along Steve Thompson and all that. I think John Smith is the outstanding candidate in this section.
Pat, you're probably most qualified. When you haven't got biscuit shoulders, you usually play in this position. So who's the best hooker?
Without a doubt for me, John Smith, obviously fantastic player, and like you said, achieved so much with South Africa. But I think when you look at professional hookers, you can't go past Kevin Mialamu. For me, absolutely outstanding player, longevity as well. Thinking about the accolades he's won, some of the players he's played with certainly, but he's still playing. Outrageous, and the man is tough as nails.
He does lead a mean hooker as well.
Yeah.
We'll decide on that one next week. So let's get back into the World Cup. Obviously, one last game to go in the pool stages. Pool. We have got Wales against Australia on Saturday. We'll start with the neutrals, seeing as they're out, so they haven't got anything else to do. Sam, what's your prediction for Saturday?
I think Australia find a similar sort of gear as it against us. Even raise it and all that. I think Wales know they're through to the quarterfinals, so they got half an hour on that now, really. Even with their depleted squad, I think it's going to be an uphill battle. So I think you've got to look at the Aussies by kind of 12 to 15 points, really.
Corsi?
Is it Twickenham or is it Millennium Stadium?
It's at Twickenham, 4:45 kickoff.
Right, I'm going to go 28-7.
Loves a score prediction.
Yeah, to Australia.
Are they going to get a bonus point?
Yeah, they will.
Guy, winning this game is massive given the difference in routes that the winner of this pool gets and the runner-up gets. Obviously, the runner-up is likely to get South Africa, followed by the All Blacks, and then the winners of the pool have got a much easier tie with the Irish, the French, etc. So, A, can we win it, and B, how important is it to win it?
I'm going to stick by my prediction and say that New Zealand are making the semis, first and foremost, because I think Ireland will beat France and then the French will do them. So I'll stick by that. But on the other hand, you are completely right. If we win this, we definitely get an easier route through the knockouts. I think we definitely can win it. Hooper being out is a massive positive. There's big chat at the moment about Folau being hurt, Gito not being fit. That's the spine of a team right there. Pocock is obviously out of this world on the floor, but if he's got no one putting him on the floor for him, i.e. Cooper making the tackles for him, I know they got Sean McMahon and that to come in. He's not going to be half as effective, and he's going to play against two sevens on Saturday, who know exactly what his game is, and they do exactly the same trying to do back to him. So I fancy us on Saturday. I won't say it's going to be easy for us. I think the Aussies are definitely on top form at the moment, but I think the Aussies played their final last week in the sense that they know they're through. They absolutely stuffed England. I think they're going to take it easy, thinking they're going to coast in. I think we're going to make surprise them.
Patty, performance of the weekend went to you. Last word should go to you. What's going to be the outcome on Saturday? I
think we'll hit another gear. I think we're so focused. The focus and drive coming out of the Wallabies camp is phenomenal. They've said it that it's a classic sporting cliche, but they're taking it one game at a time. Absolutely, no denying huge loss in Folau and Hooper, but what we can make up for it in different ways. Certainly, McMahon or McCalman's been playing really well. Kurtley Beale has magic in him as well, so I think that'll be more than made up for. And I think Wales are just going to be relieved to have got out of the pool stages. Pool. But, no one's ever won a World Cup having lost a game. So this is equally as big as last week. And I think the Wallabies realise that more than the Welsh.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. You lot at home, thank you for listening. This has been Dropout 22, a GD Media production.